She was blind, abandoned by her children, but every night she whispered the same prayer to Buddha. What happened the moment she died will forever change how you see the power of a mother's love. This isn't just a story. This is proof that some bonds transcend death itself. In the small town of Millbrook lived an extraordinary woman named Elena. At 28, a factory accident took her sight, leaving her to raise 3 young children alone. The world became darkness, but her heart remained full of light. Every morning at dawn, Elena would kneel before her small Buddha statue, hands pressed together in prayer. Dear Buddha, guide my children toward compassion. Let them find happiness, even if they cannot find their way back to me. Her children were 7, 9, and 11. Old enough to feel the weight of their mother's disability, young enough to be embarrassed by it. And the bonds between souls are stronger than death, stronger than time, stronger than our ability to comprehend them. If this story reminds you of someone who loved you when you couldn't love yourself, who prayed for you when you had lost faith, who saw your light when all you could see was darkness, take a moment today to honor their memory. Light a candle, speak their name with gratitude. Let their love continue flowing through you to others who desperately need it. And if you're currently the one doing the praying, the one loving without recognition, the one holding space for souls who have forgotten you exist, know this: your love matters. Buddha hears every prayer. Your sacrifice is creating miracles you may never witness in this lifetime, but that doesn't make them any less real. In a world that often feels broken and disconnected, you might be someone's miracle. You might be the prayer they don't even know they need. Share this story with someone who needs to know they're being prayed for, they're being loved, they're being guided by forces more powerful than their current pain. Subscribe for more stories that remind us love transcends all boundaries, all understanding, all the limitations we place on what's possible. And remember, dear souls, somewhere in the space between earth and eternity, prayers are being answered, love is being multiplied, and miracles are being born from the pure intention of hearts that refuse to stop believing in the power of compassion. Buddha's light shines through every act of love, every whispered prayer, every moment we choose kindness over indifference. You are part of that light. Never forget. Elena learned to navigate her world through sound, through touch, through an inner wisdom that blindness had awakened. She would prepare their meals by memory, pack their lunches with hands that knew every corner of their kitchen, and send them off to school with a kiss and a prayer. But children can be cruel, even to those who love them most. As they grew older, her blindness became their shame. Why can't you just stay home? Her daughter Lisa would snap. People stare at us. Marcus, her middle child, began walking 10 steps ahead in public, pretending they weren't together. And young David started telling friends his mother was sick, too ashamed to admit she was blind. The teenage years were the hardest. Lisa brought friends home less and less. Marcus spent nights out, avoiding family dinners. David began lying about school events, saying parents weren't invited. Elena felt each rejection like a knife to her heart, but every night she returned to her prayers. Dear Buddha, they are suffering because of me. Please let my love reach them even when my presence cannot. Transform their pain into wisdom. By 18, all 3 children had moved away. No forwarding addresses, no goodbye letters, no thank you for 18 years of sacrifice. Elena found herself completely alone, surviving on disability payments, eating simple meals of rice and vegetables. But her evening prayers never ceased. Buddha, I offer my loneliness as a gift. Use it to protect them from harm. Let my suffering become their shield. Years turned into decades. 22 years of silence from her children. 22 years of nightly prayers. Elena's health began to decline. Diabetes from years of poor nutrition. A weak heart from carrying too much emotional pain. But still, every evening at sunset, she would kneel before her Buddha, her weathered hands finding the familiar pose of prayer. On a quiet Thursday evening in October, Elena collapsed in her small kitchen while preparing her simple dinner of soup and bread. She lay there for 2 days, consciousness fading in and out, but her lips never stopped moving in prayer. Buddha, watch over Lisa, guide Marcus toward peace, protect young David from darkness. At exactly 6:47 p.m. on Saturday, as the autumn sun painted her tiny apartment golden, Elena took her final breath. But this is where the story becomes extraordinary. That exact same moment, 6:47 p.m., 3 miracles occurred across 3 different cities. Lisa was standing on the rooftop of her apartment building, devastated by her 3rd failed marriage, ready to end her pain forever. As she stepped toward the edge, she suddenly felt warm arms wrap around her from behind. The sensation was so real, so comforting, that she turned around expecting to see someone. No one was there. But in that moment, she heard a voice, soft, familiar, speaking words she hadn't heard in 22 years. My dear child, you are loved beyond measure. Lisa stepped back from the edge, tears streaming down her face. Across the country, Marcus was in his car, drunk and furious after losing his job, speeding down a mountain road with no intention of slowing down. As he reached for his phone to send one final angry text, his steering wheel suddenly felt guided. The car slowed on its own, pulling safely into a rest area, engine shutting off mysteriously. Marcus sat there sobbing, overwhelmed by a presence he couldn't explain, a peace he hadn't felt since childhood. And in a 3rd city, David was about to sign documents with loan sharks, desperate to pay gambling debts that would destroy his family. His pen stopped working. The lender offered another. It wouldn't write. A 3rd pen, also dead, but more than that, the room suddenly felt sacred. David looked up to see a photograph on the lender's desk, a picture of an elderly Asian woman with the same gentle smile his mother used to have. She reminds me of my mother, the lender said softly. She always told me, some debts are too dangerous to pay. Walk away. David walked away. 3 children, 3 moments of crisis, 3 unexplained interventions. All at 6:47 p.m., the exact moment their mother's prayers found eternal silence. A week later, all 3 received calls from Elena's neighbor. Their mother had died alone, but she had left something for them. They met at the tiny apartment they remembered from childhood, now feeling smaller, more humble, filled with the simple dignity of a life lived in service. The neighbor, Mrs. Patel, led them to Elena's bedroom. Beside her bed sat a small wooden box carved with lotus flowers. Inside were thousands of prayer beads, worn smooth by decades of use, and a handwritten journal in Braille. Mrs. Patel had learned to read Braille just to understand Elena's writings. She opened to a random page and translated, October 15th, 2019. Buddha, Lisa is lost in anger. Send her someone who will show her kindness. Help her remember that love exists. October 15th, 2019. The day Lisa met her current husband, the man who saved her from her darkest period. Another entry, March 3rd, 2018. Buddha, Marcus drinks to numb his pain, Surround him with protection. Don't let him harm himself or others. March 3rd, 2018. The night Marcus had crashed his car but walked away without a scratch. The night he first considered getting sober. And another, November 7th, 2020. Buddha, David is making dangerous choices. Create obstacles in his path toward destruction. Guide him back to the light. November 7th, 2020. The first time David had tried to borrow from loan sharks, but the meeting had been mysteriously canceled. Page after page, prayer after prayer, date after date matching exactly with moments in their lives when they had felt inexplicably protected, guided, saved. Their mother had been their guardian angel, and they never knew. The Buddha taught that metta, loving kindness, is the most powerful force in existence. It doesn't diminish when it's unacknowledged. It doesn't weaken when it's unreturned. It grows stronger through pure intention. Elena's prayers weren't answered because she deserved them. They were answered because love that pure creates its own miracles. In Buddhism, we understand that consciousness doesn't end with death. It transforms. Elena's love became the invisible thread connecting her to her children's souls, the gentle force that guided them away from harm, the voice that whispered, "You are worthy," when they couldn't hear it anywhere else. Her blindness in this world had awakened a sight that transcends physical reality. She could see their souls, their struggles, their potential for happiness, even when they had lost sight of themselves. How many of us have invisible guardians whose love we've never acknowledged? How many prayers are being whispered for us right now by souls who ask for nothing in return? And perhaps most importantly, whose invisible guardian are you meant to become? Today, Lisa works as a counselor for suicidal teens. Marcus has been sober for 3 years and volunteers at addiction recovery centers. David teaches financial literacy to young people, helping them avoid the traps he once fell into. Every Saturday at 6:47 p.m., they gather at Elena's grave with their own children, Elena's grandchildren she never got to hold. They've learned to pray not just for themselves, but for strangers who might need an invisible hand to guide them through darkness. They understand now what their mother always knew. Love is never wasted, prayers are never unheard.